keep things simple, we're going to assume that the firm produces only one good. And we're going to represent the quantity of the good that they produce by Q. And the firm is also going to sell the good that they produce at some fixed price P. So what we're doing here is that we're assuming that the firm is taking the price P as given, much like the consumers took the prices as given. So they're behaving as what we call price takers. In Micro 2, you'll see what happens when you relax this assumption. Now, if the firm is selling Q units of the single good that they produce at the price P, then the revenue is going to be P times Q. The cost of the firm is going to depend on the quantity that they produce. In other words, the cost is a function of the quantity produced. So C of Q is the cost of producing Q units. The profit is then the revenue minus the cost. So the revenue, remember, is price times quantity, and the cost is given by the cost function. So it's price times quantity minus the cost of producing Q units. That's what the profit is. Now we need to know where this cost function comes from. Now, to maximize profit, what the firm has to be doing is using the cheapest bundle of inputs, so the cheapest combination of inputs, to produce Q units. That we know. So the amount of, let's say, capital and labor are the two inputs, then the combination of labor and capital has to be the cheapest combination of capital and labor to produce Q units. So C of Q tells us what the cheapest way is to produce Q units. So this should remind you a little bit about the expenditure function. Remember, expenditure function told us what's the cheapest way to get to U, the level, utility level U. The cost function is going to tell us what's the cheapest way to produce Q units of output. Remember, I told you in the previous video that we're going to be just relabeling things, and so a lot of the things are going to be familiar. So here, this cost function is really just relabeled expenditure function. Now, the idea that you are producing the Q units as cheaply as possible is a necessary condition to be profit maximizing. What do I mean by necessary? It means that if you're not producing the Q units as cheaply as possible, it can't be that you're maximizing profit. But just because you're producing the Q units in the cheapest way possible, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're maximizing profit. You might be picking the wrong level of quantity. So it's not a sufficient condition. So in order to be maximizing profit, not only do you need to be producing whatever you're producing as cheaply as possible, but you also have to be producing the optimal quantity.